probably the first thing to do, let's go ahead and start with, once you introduce yourself, who you are, how long you've been with, Georgia Carpet, and what your role is there.
Sure. So my name is Ryan Vaughn. I've been with Georgia Carpet since 2000. It's a family-owned and operated company. My dad started the company in 1980. So it's we've had the growing pains just like everybody else. We've he started out just wholesale, really, selling dealer to dealer, and then in the late 1990s he got into to consumer and the homeowner, and so we've just been trying to navigate that process of kind of being a wholesaler and a retailer, and it's just what I do every day now.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I remember when I came to visit, you had mentioned to me that you had been in the business. I guess your dad owned the business, so you started really, really young. So you've been in it a long time. So
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about when you started, and then some of the things that you've seen in the evolution of the industry since the time that you've been in the business?
Sure. So when I first came on full time after college, I started out just helping in marketing. I didn't really, even though I grew up in flooring, I didn't know everything about flooring by any means, and so I did know a little bit about marketing. That's what I went to school for, and we started working in AdWords, or it wasn't even AdWords, it was Yahoo at the time, was the major search platform, and we, me and another lady here,
You're talking late 90s then.
Yeah, late 90s.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time on ads and what words to bid on, and I mean at the time you could bid on words for like 2 or 3 cents. So
Yeah, they were
click.
cheap.
I mean,
yeah.
It was nothing.
That's why I did the math on that. I'm like, you were probably hitting Yahoo and Google when they were 5 cents a click.
Yeah, it was. You could get a lot of clicks for the traffic wasn't there. So, so that's how I started out. I started out and doing marketing and a little bit of paperwork here and there, and then as I grew more in the business and learned more about flooring, I got into the buying side of it and became a lot more familiar with wood and carpet. Carpet was a majority of our business for years. I mean, even up until the last like 2 or 3 years, it was over 50%. And then
it's still that high?
No, now it's about 35%.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah. Now LVT has definitely taken over in the past, 5 years. I've really focused on learning about LVT, the ins and outs of it, and trying to compare apples to apples when it comes, because there's so many products out there. I really feel our industry is a whole lot harder to encompass than most industries, because there's so many little bitty players. Not like when you look at TVs and there's 3 or 4 major brands, and that's basically all there is. I mean, there's so many different types of flooring, and
so that's a great point you're bringing up, and I'm sort of curious about this myself. I've spent the last couple of years getting deeper and deeper into the flooring business and focused on LVP, since the majority of our sales from our retail shop came from LVP, and now we have this SteriCap product that we're producing also out of LVP. So what I'm really curious in, what do you see are the big differences in terms of, do you see big quality jumps from manufacturer to manufacturer when you have all these little players and all these products coming in from China and Vietnam, and then you got some companies that are producing stuff, in the States? What have you noticed in terms of the different quality in the products, and do you see a big difference?
Sure. So when LVT first came into the marketplace, there was a huge difference in quality. Like if you're paying 79 cents or something versus $1.29, like tongues would break off, the visuals would eliminate. I mean, really, really bad differences. As the product has evolved, the quality differences are not as noticeable, but you can definitely tell when somebody cheaps out, especially on the composition of the material. If it's too rigid, the tongues break really easy. It makes it very difficult for DIY. If it's not rigid enough, to me, it's a little bit harder to install. You can't do it by yourself as easy, because the product's a little bit more flimsy, and it's just harder to get the tongues locked in there. one of the major differences in quality to me is the locking mechanism itself. In the end joints, you can tell the people that have spent the money and gotten the license for like I4F or the drop and lock end joints. They make a huge difference, especially for DIY people. It makes the experience a whole lot different. Visually wise, you can tell when somebody's cheaped out on their finish or their visual. This product doesn't look as clean or look like a real product. So Karndean's really good at having a really good visual. Like when it's installed, it's kind of hard to tell that it's not, you know, a real wood or engineered wood. And you can tell the Cortex is a great example. Like they spend a lot of time on their visuals, like their higher end products. They look really, and they feel really real. Like the homeowner would have a hard time distinguishing once that floor is down that that's not a real product. Kind of like laminate when it began. Laminate when it first started, you could tell it was fake. But today's laminate, if it's a high quality product, I could put some laminate down and 99% of the people would have no idea it's not real wood. And that's why LVT, I think, is going to where it'll be really close to a mimic of a real wood.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you're, you know, for anybody, a homeowner who may stumble upon this podcast, I mean, how would a homeowner know? Because a lot of times they're looking at the visuals. They get caught up in the visuals. Two things they're looking at. What does the floor look like? Trying to imagine it in their home, and how much does it cost?
Yep.
And there's very little attention paid, you know, and I'm having these conversations with customers all the time. I have never had a client ask me, well, how good is the locking system?
Yep.
And clearly that's an important thing, both in the installation of the product, especially if they're going to do it by themselves, like you mentioned, and the longevity and the durability of the product once it's installed. So can you touch on that a little bit?
Sure. So one thing that I try to educate the consumer when they come in, because a lot of them go to Home Depot or they go to Lowe's or they look online and they find basically the best price for the look that they want. And a lot of times Home Depot will have something like $1.79 or $1.99. Then you go look up the specs of it. Well, it's either going to be a 6 mil wear layer, which I wouldn't put in my home. And when I sell somebody, that's why I try to tell them, like, I'm not going to sell you something that I wouldn't put in my home unless you're trying to be like budget conscious, just trying to turn a house. You know, if you're trying to flip a house and you want to just have the lowest price, then hey, we'll go with a entry level product. But Home Depot and Lowe's they do a good job of marketing and they have good visuals, but their products for the most part are inferior. 6 mil wear layer, the thickness is usually under the 3.5 for a quick, which I found the integrity of the locking system is almost none. The tongues break really easy. It has a whole lot more chance of coming apart because the locking mechanism is just not that difficult. I mean, not that tight. So there's just a whole lot of room for errors that you can't hide. So I tell people all the time, you know, nothing's for free and you get what you pay for what you get. So if you see something that's $1.79 at Home Depot or Lowe's and you're trying to find the visual that's similar and you're going into a retail store and their price is $2.59 or $2.79, there's a reason why. It's not because Home Depot or Lowe's buys better than us. It's really not. It's just they've taken a product and they've taken stuff that visually doesn't look like it matters out, but in the structural standpoint, it does matter. And it's gonna, in the long run, they're gonna get what they paid for if they buy something like that.
So you mentioned the 6 mil products at some of the big box stores, and I've gone up against customers who are, you know, shopping us against a Home Depot or a Lowe's and trying to explain to them the difference between a 6 mil and a 12 mil product. What has your experience been in terms of like how long do you expect, or what would you think lifespan would be of a 6 mil product versus a 12 or 20 mil?
So one question I always ask is like, what's the lifestyle in your home? You know, do you have kids? Do you have pets? How many people are in your home? And to me, a 6 mil product is going to last. in a normal 4-person home with like a small dog, it's probably gonna last 5 to 10 years and still look decent. You might notice a little bit more scratching or something like that. But let's just say you have 5 kids or 4 kids and you have a big dog. A 6 mil product is going to be eaten up and it's going to look like a piece of junk in about 3 to 5 years.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what I meant.
it's just not going to hold up. I mean, it's just not. The problem with LVT in general is it's kind of like, it was sold when it first came out, like bulletproof, it's scratch proof, it's waterproof, it's, this and that, and that's just not the case. And a lot of consumers have a misnomer of, oh, I can put this down and it's going to last forever. I mean, and that's what I try to tell them is most people, no matter if you're buying hardwood, carpet, laminate, or LVT, most people are going to get tired of the product the way it looks before it wears out if it's treated properly. So I think the box stores and even some manufacturers now, they really oversell LVT and what it can do. I know there are some new products that are coming out that we'll probably all see in the third, maybe fourth quarter of this year that really have some performance enhancers that will make it like scratch. I mean, literally, it's got a scratch warranty. Real pet warranty for pets.
Is that the products where they're printing the design directly onto the core?
No, not direct print products. No.
No. Okay. What are you seeing that's coming down the pipeline then?
So there are some products from Cortec and from Shaw that will have full pet warranties, full scratch warranties, 25 years. That they just have a different finish on them that stands up to the Traffik.
So it's not ceramic bead, or they're putting is it like a 90 mil wear layer? How they doing it?
They're not really talking about the specs right now.
Gotcha.
They don't want to give that away. At least they haven't given it to me yet. But I would say it has to do more with what they're putting in the wear layer. I don't think it's ceramic bead. Ceramic bead's been out for a long time. Tarkat's had it for years, and that's not pet proof. So I don't think it's ceramic bead. I think it's more like a melamine finish, maybe. The problem with melamine in the past is it made the picture look hazy or kind of fake. But the products I saw looked really realistic, and so I don't know that for sure, but that's just my guess.
But you heard they're rolling those out in third, fourth quarter, is that what you said?
Yep.
Well, that's kind of cool. Interesting to see the evolution of the technology and sort of it jumping, into the future with the products getting even better and more durable, and who the players are that end up jumping to the front of the lines. I visited Floor and Decor yesterday, and they had this new, I can't remember what they call it. It was like titanium cover or something, like tectanium, I think they called it, or something like that. And that, I had the product in my hand. It looked pretty nice. It was solid. But I think that's one of the ones where they're printing directly onto the core. I thought that was going to be the next step, but it sounds like maybe some of the manufacturers have figured out how to even go past that to come up with something even more durable.
Yeah, I mean, some of them have been direct printing to the core. I think they've had some issues with like the visual, and especially not only the visual but the embossing of those products. I don't know all the technical side
Give
of
it
it, but
texture to it.
Yeah, but there's some reasons that they decided not to push that to the forefront from the big manufacturer side.
Cool. All right. Well, we touched on some technical stuff in terms of the product evolution, which is great. I think, the consumer demand is the number one thing that's driving this. I know you mentioned you're still doing about 35% carpet. And obviously the name of your business is Georgia Carpet. And so have you had challenges, from a branding standpoint with so much of the business moving towards solid surface, and you guys having carpet in the name of the business? And have you felt like that had any impact? As the marketing guy, you probably have a sense of that.
Yeah, I mean, personally, the way I see it, like you've seen the drive for LVT. I mean, in flooring, unfortunately, we always want to think that brands are like the key factor, like Nike and Sony and all that. On flooring, you don't really get that big brand name unless it was in the 80s and 90s, it was Stainmaster and Carpet. And Cortec has probably done the best job of that recently. For our branding purposes, we really went with waterproof. That was kind of because people weren't really sure what LVT was at first. A lot of them called it laminate or,
They
things
still
of that
don't know.
nature.
I get that question 5 times a day.
Yeah. So we kind of went with the waterproof as our branding term. And that's kind of because the big box stores do it. Big box stores are really the best at getting new products out there because they have a bigger reach and they have a bigger marketing department than any of the flooring brands.
Importantly, I might also add here that the bigger stores also understand branding. In other words, they're willing to invest in branding, knowing that they're going to spend money today that might not pay them till tomorrow.
Exactly.
What I found, as a digital marketer with clients all across the country, it is really difficult to get a smaller shop to think about investing money in building up even their store brand. Forget about a brand of a product, but just the investment in brand, I find, is almost non-existent in this business. Everybody's worried about the sales. How much is it going to cost me to get a lead, and how many conversions am I going to make, and then how many sales am I going to get out of it? Nobody, and that's thinking about today. Like I'm going to spend X today, and I want to get Y, in a couple of days, rather than I'm going to spend X today, and next year I'm going to get Z because I built this brand platform and people know who I am, what I do, what I'm all about. It just takes more time. So the big box stores, they get that, they understand that concept, and they're able to be more patient and reap the rewards down the road a little bit from what I've seen.
Yeah, well, so branding think of like Ford, think of Chevy, like all the brands that are real brands are pushed by the manufacturers themselves. And in our flooring industry,
right,
we don't, besides Stainmaster, there hasn't been like a nationally televised ad on like a ABC, NBC, CBS top channel. I can't tell you, where I've seen one, but our manufacturers, they do build brands, but they don't go away like other big industries do. Everybody knows what Refrigerator is or Samsung or, things of that nature. But I mean, as popular as Cortec is, you don't see it on nationally televised broadcast channels. You'll see it on like HGTV and stuff like that. But those are typically people that are already in the process of looking for, flooring. So when the consumer goes to look for a product, they'll get some brand recognition then, but there's no like top of mind awareness till they need that product.
Yeah,
but
no, there really isn't.
Flooring's not
so you haven't had any difficulties with Georgia Carpet in the name, being a primarily solid surface
no.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I've noticed that a few times with other clients around the country too. I just was curious to get your feedback, since you said you had a marketing background. You might be more aware of, how that's impacting the business.
No, with the way we advertise, that really doesn't carry you.
It doesn't trip up clients at all.
No. We get confused with the manufacturer from time to time, which I can't tell you how many times we get called, like, are you Shaw Industries or,
Oh, really?
Yeah, I get that all the time. Even Home Depot and Lowe's call me, like, trying to place orders because they think we're the manufacturer.
So you mentioned that you have two sides of the business, your retail side and then your wholesale side.
Yep.
Can you tell me a little bit about your positioning as a business? How is that balanced out? Like, what percentage is retail versus wholesale? Where do you guys really put an emphasis? Is there one that's growing faster than the other? Can you touch on that a little bit?
Well, so our commercial side or our wholesale side is that's how my dad started the business. He started selling truckloads to smaller stores throughout the country, and he grew his business that way. So really, we just have a network of smaller I call them mom and top dealers or small builders or installers and stuff that we've just had throughout the years. We don't like actively try and go get those people, but we just had them, and it's word of mouth. That part has grown to where it is today, and it's about 40% of our business. And that's just repeat business that, we have private labels they call an order, or we have good deals on a special buy in LVT or wood or whatever, and we'll promote that to them. And then the consumer is their 60% of our business, and that's basically done through word of mouth, digital marketing. We do have we're on I-75 or right off I-75, so we do have some billboards that see a lot of traffic on a daily basis. But you're in marketing. It's a lot to do with the internet and where you come up on keywords, and it's a lot of hard work. There's no magic to it.
Are you selling your retail stuff? Are you selling to people in your area that are coming into the store? Are you trying to drive foot traffic? Are you selling online? Or do you have like e-com going on? What's happening there?
Our actual shopping cart online is very small because flooring is still, it's a difficult process to know exactly how much you need, and it's a difficult process, especially for carpet, to ship. So there's still a lot of interaction that either takes place over an email or a phone call or live chat. We do a lot of that too. So we would all love to, have a full-blown storefront online and just flip it and orders come in, but
yeah,
that's just not the case in our industry. I mean,
yeah, it's tough. I mean, most people I find want to see the product in person. They want to touch it. They want to get to know it a little bit. It's kind of like buying a car, you want to test drive it, you want to feel it, see what's up, see how it handles.
Yeah, I mean, most people
really
spend $1,500, $2,000 on a whim, and that's basically what our average order is. And I think that's close to what the industry average is too. So, so it's not like an impulse buy. Somebody's just not going to jump in and say, "I want to go buy flooring today."
Yeah.
There are a couple of players out there that are full internet. Or semi-internet, like Fast Floors and E-Floors and some of those players, but they are low-cost providers. I mean,
they're probably making 10, 20, 30 cents a square foot,
Yeah, most times there's single-digit margins, and I really think they hurt the industry because they don't provide service and they don't provide the expertise that people need to make sure they're buying the right flooring. And they really, for the people they are trying to educate and provide the right product, they really make it difficult. I mean, for somebody like Fast Floors in particular, they're, I don't know if you ever looked at their business model, but they basically reach out to flooring dealers like yourself and myself and say, "Hey, we're gonna create an order online, and we want you to process it, and we're going to give you a percentage of it." And so. And they violate a lot of the MAP policies and things of that nature that the manufacturers have a hard time figuring out what they're doing because they go through so many different individuals. I mean, it's people that want money now, but they don't understand what they're doing to the marketplace.
Yeah. So back to your process, like what is so our customers are coming to your store, or are you sending them samples? Like how do you guys?
Yeah, we send out a lot of samples. Do
you guys charge for them?
Some of them we do. It just depends on if we're charged for it from the manufacturer, how many they want, how big of a job it is, things of that nature. We look at it on a case by case basis.
Oh, you do? Okay, cool.
Yeah, we can't. There for a while, we just gave out samples, whoever need them, and it's
got a little expensive.
Yeah, it got a lot expensive. So you just have to be kind of qualify each customer and see, how the best way to approach is.
So you must be. Are you driving your ads, or are you running ads? I did see a few Facebook ads. Have you guys had success with that? Are you doing Google? Like, what's your mix of your ads?
We use Facebook to drive traffic to our store. We found that to be more effective.
Like foot traffic?
Yeah, because a lot of people look at Facebook on a more regional basis or, a communal basis. So we use Facebook to drop like in-store promotions and things like that. AdWords and SEO stuff, that's all for outside the area. So we're about 30% in the state of Georgia and the rest of it throughout the country.
So your digital ads would be trying to drive people into your website mostly?
Yep.
Cool. And what do you find? Do you have one that's working better than another in terms of your? Do you have one you spend more on than the other because you think it's more effective or less effective? Or
Well, if you're in advertising on digital wise and you're not focused on Google, then you're missing the boat because I think it's 80% of all traffic in the United States comes from Google. So, I mean, if that's not your main target, then you're shooting at a smaller pond, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Google's still like the behemoth, and it's still the one that takes up a majority of our budget. But I think anybody will find if you just focus on one channel that it's not. It all adds together to make a good marketing strategy. You can't just focus one way. If you do, if that changes, then you're in trouble. 2 or 3 years ago, Google made a huge change to their algorithm, and people that were only focused on that, they suffered. And so, can't put all your eggs in one basket. And that's what I tell anybody that would be starting up. You gotta have a wide net.
Are you running? Do you run most of that, or make most of those decisions? Do you have a team? Do you outsource it? How do you guys?
We have a team inside. We have tried outsourcing in the past, and some of it's been good, and some of it's been not so good. The problem with having a team is you gotta make sure you have the right people. It all comes down to the right people, and that's hard to find. And
it really is. Yeah,
and when it first began, anybody could really do it. But today, the technology is so, I don't want to say it's cumbersome, but they don't make it easy because they want to make money. So
it's cumbersome. I'll go ahead and say it for you. I'm in the backside of Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and Google Ads and I mean, shoot, you need a freaking degree to get in there and do the stuff. It looks a little bit like you're getting ready to send a space shuttle into outer space when I'm in my Facebook account. Like numbers everywhere. What does it mean? Like the data that's available and the analytics and like, I mean, I could spend 24 hours a day going through and just creating new ads, tweaking ads, reviewing the numbers, and probably still not get as much done as I'd like to get done. It's sort of a process on my end to just, consistently spend time, just when I can, going through, reviewing, seeing how an ad's performing, how it, what we could do to tweak it, testing ads, running, tests with the same copy and different pictures, running a test with different copy and the same pictures, and just seeing what's going to work and what's not going to work. It's a lot. It really, those platforms, I think they make them intentionally obtuse. So it would be, I don't think they want it in the hands of the layperson necessarily, because they're worried that the layperson's going to come in and not really know what they're doing, screw it up, and then get frustrated and say, you know what, I'm not going to spend any money on it. So I really think that they're intentionally made it difficult so that to drive businesses to agencies who understand the intricacies of the platforms and understand how to run, proper ads so that they'll get a return and keep spending money in the thing.
Exactly.
That's my opinion on it.
Yeah, they're there to make money. I don't know how long ago you started like AdWords or something, but they used to tell you so much data. Like this word got this much traffic. This is what you paid per click. It used to be chock full of great information, and now it's just, if you don't understand how to read the analytics, then you're just wasting your time and you're wasting your money because you're not going to get the return you need.
It really, and that's why finding the right people is so important. You really got to have somebody who understands that on the back end in order to do it effectively. Because, I have clients all the time. We'll get started, in a month or in 2 months, and they're not getting the results they kind of hoped or imagined or thought they might get. and so I get that they're like, oh, this Facebook doesn't work for me, Instagram doesn't work for me, and I have to remind them, like, no, it's working. It's actually working. We'll see traffic, we'll see all this stuff. It's working. There's either a breakdown of what happens by the time it ends up in your lap,
Yeah.
or there's a breakdown, in terms of like, hey, every market's a little bit different. Every consumer is a little bit different. Finding how each area is going to react to a particular creative, because it's math and it's art. It's part of looking at the analytics and seeing how many people you get in front of and seeing the cost per thousand that you're spending and the conversion ratios and whatnot. But it's also like, how are you communicating? What are you saying? Are you saying it effectively? Is your message resonating? Complexity of the interface, I think, is really, like I said, it's designed to keep the ads in the hands of people who know what they're doing, because even the professionals don't get it right on the first time. It might take 8, 10, 15 different ad campaigns and creatives and tweaks and variations before we really find a formula that's going to work in a particular area for a particular client.
You can
So
get
do you
people
guys
there all day, but you still have to have salesmen to sell them. And
that's the other big
factor.
thing.
Yeah.
So how are you guys set up? You mentioned that you have online chat and things like that. I'm assuming that you personally don't jump in and do those chats. Do you have a team that's doing that, or like, what's the process there?
We have a group that's dedicated to emails and chats and all that good stuff. And so we just try to keep those guys focused on that type of thing, and then the rest of them will deal with our retail sales and whatnot.
So the goal of those guys obviously would be to get the people to come into the store, or are they turning them over to a salesperson at some point? How do you transition that from the online people to your sales team?
No, they're part of the sales team. So the people that are doing the chat and stuff, they're all part of the sales team. So they're
Gotcha.
they're there to complete it all the way through.
Oh, really? Okay. So
Yeah.
so they're trained in sort of online long distance sort of communication and trying to turn them into an actual customer. Do you find that to be challenging to get? I mean, is that where some of the struggle is, finding good people who can take a client from online inquiry to giving you
Yep.
money for floors?
Yep, that's tough. Just like finding a good retail salesperson, it's tough.
I believe that.
Especially in today's marketplace. There's just not that many salespeople out there, and there's especially not that many salespeople out there that are good with the internet. So
Do you try to find people that are experienced in the flooring business and train them on online selling, or do you try to find people who are just natural salespeople and you'll teach them floors later?
natural sales is better.
Yeah.
If they're educated in flooring, sometimes they have bad habits. So
And how many of those how many of those people do you have on your team?
So it's better just find an actual salesperson to teach them than it is to try to go back through bad habits. Usually, people that have been in retail flooring sales, they're not the demographic for online sales. Like most of the online sales are younger people and a little bit more educated than the internet, and so do you
find your customers to also be that way, or do you get a wide age range of people?
Well, I think we actually skew to the older demographic, really. Usually that people are more price conscious. We'll do a lot more shopping online and then even in stores.
Yeah.
Some of the younger demographic is more about ease of accessibility. If they can do it really easy, click a button and be done, then like Amazon has spoiled a lot of people.
Yeah.
So some people just want ease of use, and they don't care what the price is. They just want to click a button and be done.
Time.
Yep.
Time is important. We value time, especially,
Yep.
The generation who's sort of spoiled on the ease of, calling for an Uber and having it show up, with a click of a button on your phone.
Exactly.
I'm into that at this point. I'm in the
Yep.
middle. I'm not old and I'm not young, so.
Me neither, buddy.
But I
At
value my
least I hope I'm
time.
not.
Yeah, right. I value my time quite a bit. So, well, that's pretty cool. So, last little bit of stuff we'll get to here, and then we'll wrap it up. But in terms of like challenges for you, or things that you're seeing, or issues in the industry that kind of you see as potential obstacles to either your growth or just the flooring industry in general, what are some of the things that sort of jump out at you?
So first generation LVT owners, do they buy a cheap product or they buy the correct product they needed? If they buy a product that didn't meet their needs, they might have a bad taste in it. So they might not repeat buy LVT. That's a concern of mine, and it should be a concern for the industry. Because there's a lot of product out there and a lot of bad product out there for a while. And
So have you seen that start to bubble up yet? And if so, like what kind of products are they looking at when they come back around that next time, if they're upset with what the experience they had with the LVT?
I haven't seen it that much, but I've had a couple of customers come in and go, I've done that already. I didn't like it, or like when it first came out and it was glue down, a lot of telegraphing was out there, and so it hasn't been out really long enough to have a second generation. I mean,
Right.
not really. So,
But you see it coming.
yeah, and hopefully people had enough good experiences to where it'll keep growing. That, and I think we're in a Halloween bubble now. There's different point of views of how long that bubble will last. So that worries me. But it could be worry for a decade down the road, or it could be worry for 6 months down the road.
Or tomorrow.
Nobody knows. But
As someone from the real estate business who got smashed in 2007 and 8, I can tell you that it goes quick.
Yeah, it can't keep
literally, like
pace.
within 1 month, I was on the firing lines in 2000. It was really, most people think of it as 2008 and 2009, because I was on the firing lines. My clients are subprime mortgage lenders. I felt it in August, September timeframe of 2007, when all of a sudden these subprime mortgage lenders started closing up shop in the middle of closings.
Yeah.
It was a mess. So it can go really, really quick, and it can cut deep. Do you guys have, sort of a plan of how you would survive, a pullback? I mean, a pullback's invariably coming because the thing is just on fire right now.
Yeah.
But how far a pulls back is always, the big question. Hopefully, we could, with the government and the regulatory things and their management of the interest rates and all that stuff, hopefully, they can find a way to mitigate that a little bit, which they did last year when the the virus hit, and they came up with these stimulus packages and supporting businesses and things like that. And it probably stopped us from spiraling into, some, a recession, a strong recession. So maybe it doesn't cut quite as deep. But do you guys have a plan for, when things slow down a little bit? Do you start cutting staff? Do you cut back on marketing? Do you find ways to get creative in your business? Like how do you guys overcome when those kind of things happen?
Well, since the last recession, we have diversified our business model. Like we don't put all our eggs in one basket by any means, and we try to always seek new markets. So if it was a huge downturn, yes, I'm sure we'd have to cut some expenses. Cutting your marketing budget is like cutting the gas out of a car, and so.
Hallelujah! As a digital marketing guy, I'm gonna high five to that one.
Yeah. So anybody that's their first thing they do, then they're just hurting themselves. They're just making the wound worse. If that's your first cut, I wouldn't do that unless it got to the point of make or break. Like I can't physically afford to pay this bill,
right,
and stay open. It's your lifeline. I mean, especially when the market shrinks, you have to try to take a bigger piece of the pie, and that's kind of how we're looking at it. We just diversify enough to where if when the market shrinks, it's not going to hurt us enough to where we actually have to make huge cuts.
Makes a lot of sense. Anything else on your mind you'd like to get off your chest?
Not right now. Maybe we can do it again later. I actually have another meeting in about, I don't know, 70 seconds or so.
Okay, cool. So we wrapped it up right on time. All right, well, Ryan, man, I really appreciate you taking some time to hang out with me today, talk a little bit of flooring business. I think we covered some really good points, and I think that our audience will get some value out of the experience that you've had and some of the things that you had to talk about today. So I really appreciate your time.
David, I appreciate you, buddy, and pleasure talking to you. If you ever want me on again, just yell.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Have a great day.